Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahabushai, Bahasham, Barakahakwadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahabushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off in Isaiah chapter 60, verse 18. Violence shall no more be heard in thy land, wasting nor destruction within thy borders, but thou shalt call thy walls salvation and thy gates praise. And this is a future prophecy dealing with the children of Israel back in the Holy Land. As it says, violence would no more be heard in the Holy Land. And are you seeing that right now? Of course not, because those people over in the Holy Land right now aren't the true children of the Most High. They're Amalekite Edomites. They're imposters in the Holy Land. And for the rest of the video, I'll be referring to them as the 1948ers. And I opened up this video with this verse to preface a clip from Wyon's YouTube channel titled, Israel, Thousands Stage March to Mark Jerusalem Day. Various incidences of violence reported. So clearly, violence still being heard in the land of Israel. And as we'll see in this clip, those 1948ers had Jerusalem Day, marking them taking over Eastern Jerusalem back in 1967. Another incidence of violence. And when they firmly cemented the land into their hands in 1948 with the Israeli Declaration of Independence, you immediately had the Arab-Israeli War. Then there was the 6 Days War, also in 1967. And then you constantly got conflicts taking place between those 1948er Amalekite Edomites and those Palestinian Arabs who were Ishmaelites. And recently, you had the Israeli military conduct the Chariots of Fire drill, which is them simulating possible, though inevitable, future attacks against Iran. And also, World War III hasn't even taken place yet. Those 1948ers clearly aren't the true children of Israel, and they will be taken out of that land, and the true children of Israel will be put back into that land. But before we start the video, I'm going to read Ezekiel 36, verse 5, to show the prophecies that the Amalekite Edomites do fit in regards to what the heathens would do with the Holy Land. Therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea, which is the Greek way of saying Edom. And the biblical Edomites are known as these so-called white people today. These Americans, the British, Europeans, Russians, those 1948ers, Australians, South Africans, etc., which have appointed my land into their possession. And how did those Amalekite Edomites, the 1948ers, get the land into their possession? By appointing it, laying the groundwork with the Balfour Declaration in 1917, even though before then, those Amalekite Edomites had started moving people into that land, and then further cementing the deal in 1948 with the Israeli Declaration of Independence. And like I just said, violence has been taking place in that area ever since, which have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of all their heart, with despiteful minds, to cast it out for a prey.
Shifting focus to another global story at this hour. Now, a year after tensions in Jerusalem exploded in war, thousands of Israelis marched through Jerusalem's old city for the annual flag march, marking Jerusalem Day, which celebrates Israel's 1967 capture of East Jerusalem.
Capture, appointing the land into their possession.
Reports estimate that over 70,000 Jewish Israelis paraded through the streets. They entered the city through the highly symbolic Damascus Gate and walked through the Muslim quarter to the Western Wall, waving the national flag. Most hoisted the Israeli flags while others sang and danced. Some of the marchers chanted slogans such as "Deaths to Arabs."
And another thing, when the true children of Israel, who are known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today are back in the Holy Land, all 12 tribes would be together, the Northern and the Southern Kingdom. Go ask one of these 1948ers what tribe they're from, and more often than not, they'll say Judah. Oh, I'm a J-E-W. I'm just J-E-W-I-S-H. And that I-S-H at the end of J-E-W simply means pertaining to try to be like, imitate. And if they're saying they're J-E-W, then what tribe of the Southern Kingdom are you from? Judah, Benjamin, or Levi? Because that term J-E-W started off as slang that the Romans used for the Southern Kingdom, since they all look similar. Ask them where the Northern Kingdom is. Ask them where Ephraim, Issachar, Reuben, Gad, etc. are. You'll hear a lot of deflections. Oh, they're on the other side of the Euphrates River. Oh, we just don't know that right now. You know what? You're an anti-Shemite. Just complete BS. That's because you're not the true children of the Most High. You're those 1948ers, those Amalekite Edomites that appointed the land into their possession. Also, according to prophecy, when the true children of Israel were back in the land, King David would be over them. And do you see King David over in the Holy Land right now? Of course not. And the David's slingshot anti-missile defense system doesn't count. This is Ezekiel chapter 37. I'm going to start at verse 21. And say unto them, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whither they be gone, and will gather them on every side, and bring them into their own land, not through the Balfour Declaration or the Israeli Declaration of Independence, by the hand and power of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai himself. And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, the northern and the southern kingdom being back together. All 12 tribes of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And one king shall be king to them all. And what do you have going on over there? They elect a different prime minister every so years. And they shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms any more at all. Neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions. And those Amalekite Edomites over there are committing all manners of abominations in the Holy Land. Tel Aviv is known as Pink City, and it's one of the top pride spots for the alphabet group beginning with LG on the planet. They have kosher pork, and also they have their own parliament and democracy with laws that are separate from the laws, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai. And when dealing with the true children of Israel, hey, they're still committing fornication and abominations and following after idols. The 2/3 in America call themselves Black, Mexican, Native American. They're a part of the alphabet group beginning with LG. They commit adultery. Our women are whores. They go to Planned Parenthood to get rid of their children. They eat detestable foods like pork and shrimp and other seafood, etc. But I will save them out of all their dwelling places wherein they have sinned, and I will cleanse them. So shall they be my people, and I will be their power. And as pursuant to Hebrews chapter 8, when Yahushai saves the elect, hey, that's when the second covenant kicks in. And when the second covenant kicks in, all the nation of Israel will have the laws, statutes, and commandments in them. We will replace that stony heart with that fleshly heart. We're never going to go off again. We're going to be righteous for eternity. Verse 24, and what does the header read? The Davidic kingdom. And David, King David, my servant, shall be king over them in the flesh, that you can see him. And they all shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgments and observe my statutes and do them, because we're going to have the laws, statutes, and commandments in us. And they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob my servant, wherein your fathers have dwelt, and they shall dwell therein, even they and their children and their children's children forever, and violence will no more be heard in the land, and my servant David shall be their prince forever. Hey, when we go to biblical prophecy, things just don't add up with you 1948ers, unless it's dealing with what the Idumeans would do with the Holy Land according to prophecy.
And incidents of violence have been reported during the march. Even though the authorities had deployed more than 3,000 police officers ahead of the march to maintain order, scuffles were reported across the old city with both sides clashing, throwing glass bottles. It has been reported that over 75 Palestinians were injured during the violence. Many Palestinians also staged protests, raising flags. The police...
And you Palestinian Arabs, you Ishmaelites don't belong in the land either.
Clashed with the protesters and used tear gas, rubber bullets and batons to control the situation. Israeli police said they arrested over 60 people for disorderly conduct or assaulting police officers, and that 5 officers had also been injured. This after Prime Minister Naftali Bennett ordered police to show zero tolerance towards Jewish extremists. Counter rallies were also staged by Palestinians at the West Bank, and Israeli security forces clashed with protesters who set tires ablaze. In Gaza, tens of Palestinians protested the march and burnt an Israeli flag. Earlier, violence was also reported at the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, where Palestinians attacked Jewish nationals after they raised pro-Israel slogans at the compound. Israeli forces reported that the protesters...
And that's another thing. You've got the Al-Aqsa Mosque in the Holy Land, which goes back to Muslim conquerors setting it up. You've got Islam in the Holy Land, you've got Christianity, and you've got Judaism. Just complete madness. When the true children of Israel are back in the land, the only law that's going to stand are the true laws of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai found in the scriptures, not anything from the Talmud, the Quran, or any other false ideology out there.
Barricaded the gates of the mosque and pelted stones at them from inside the mosque. Police further said in a statement that they locked the building's gates and made several arrests before the situation returned to normal around midday. Now, the march comes a year after tensions led to Islamist armed group Hamas to fire rockets at Israel, triggering an 11-day war. This year, the flag march comes at a particularly tense time. Over the past 2 months, Israel has suffered its worst wave of terrorist attacks for years, which has killed at least 19 people. Israel, in turn, has launched military raids targeting armed groups in the occupied West Bank.
Look at all that peace taking place in the Holy Land.
Which has left about 35 Palestinians dead, including journalist Shireen Abu Akleh. The decision by Israel Prime Minister to let the march proceed as planned has been criticized. West Bank's Palestinian Authority warned that the march will lead to further escalation of war, while neighboring nation of Jordan, which remains the custodian of Jerusalem's Muslim holy site, also warned against the march.
Let's close it out in Micah chapter 4, verses 1 to 3. But in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of Yahweh shall be established in the top of the mountains. And in the scriptures, mountains can be symbolic for governments. So this is the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of Israel being set up, beginning with the elect. And it shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow unto it. These heathen nations are going to be subservient to the nation of Israel. And many nations shall come, many heathen nations, and say, come and let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh and to the house of the power of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. And do you see the majority of the planet following after the ways of these 1948ers, wearing the Shirley Temple curls or the little hat, reading from the Talmud, speaking Yiddish? Of course not. A lot of these people are against these 1948ers with the way they treat those Palestinian Arabs. And they're also against the fact that those 1948ers are constantly pushing for war against Iran. For the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. Something else we're not seeing taking place. Like I said a little bit earlier in the video, they've got Tel Aviv being Pink City over there, kosher pork, and a whole government system that's separate from the laws, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. Verse 3, and he shall judge among many people and rebuke strong nations afar off, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up a sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore, which clearly isn't the case. Hey, when they appointed that land into their possession with the 1948 Declaration of Independence, you had the Arab-Israeli War, then you had the 6 Days War, and all these constant conflicts that these 1948ers are fighting with the Palestinians, and World War III hasn't even taken place yet. So clearly, you 1948ers, they just don't fit the bill. But soon, hey, you're going to be taken out of the land, and the rightful owners of the land will be placed back in there according to prophecy. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.